So welcome back everybody to this video. We've got some great news. The bike is still under the covers for the moment, but the good news is that in 2 weeks time-ish, approximately, on June the 6th, we're going to be running a test and tune day at Black Hawk Farms with the racing organization that we're going to race with later in the year. So this is going to be a good test of how we built the bike to their standards. It's going to be a good test of getting out on track with some of my racing peers, and it's going to just be a good warm-up for me for this year to get out back on the bike and see how she's performing with the tweaks that we've done since we last went there. Because honestly, I didn't really like how the bike was feeling last time we went to Black Hawk Farms, but fingers crossed we've cracked a few of those issues and we can start to make headways into the lap time. So what we have done, there's a little bit of preparation I've still got to do, and that's what we're going to cover right now. Boom. So one of the things that I used to do when I was racing was run and seal-less chain. So the common chains that we use on the road have either an O-ring or an X-ring seal, and somebody recommended that they use this on their, race bikes, R7s, 660s, etc. So it's a 520 chain, but there's no seals in it. And I've given it a good old clean up already. It does come with my favorite clip style link. So that means that even though it has no seals in it, we can quickly and easily get this chain off the bike whenever we need to clean it. So I've just gone ahead and cleaned off the gunk that it arrives with. And you can kind of see already the lack of friction between the links, and that's what we're looking for to help us not have any losses in the drivetrain, and it's just that little extra that could make the difference. I've got a choice of lube that we're gonna have a think about. Obviously they recommend, sorry about the lighting today, we've got a low sun again. The manufacturer of the chain always recommends like a gear oil. So I thought I'd have a look at it and see what I feel. This is currently my favorite chain wax at the moment. It seems to get good reviews and is a good wax for staying on the chain. And that's what we're gonna need for something like this. Then we've splashed out and we're gonna try these. So these are the Metzler TD slicks, commonly known. So we've got a 120/70, and we've got the 180/60. There are not many sizes available, but there's a 180/55 and there's a 190/55, and this was the one recommended by another R7 rider, Aaron, thank you. And the profile of the 180/60 is just that little bit extra sharper than the other sizes, and that's what I really want too. So I'm excited to try these out. These are the ones where you don't really need a tire warmer to run them. These are special, makeup of rubber that heats up really quickly, so we don't actually need tire warmers, but of course I will be running tire warmers on these anyway. So excited to try these out. And then we've also, for the first time in my racing career, we've got some wet tires that have never been used on another bike. All of my wet tires that I used previously were either used by somebody else first, or were just a random size that didn't really fit the bike but were new, and so I made it work. So these are actually kind of new old stock. Some of the dates on these I can't quite remember, but they're not recent tires, which is why I got them, because they were cheaper, and I'm trying to make my budget count where I can. And honestly, even with my past experiences on used rain tires, I was absolutely fine. I got some good results. Some of my best results were in the wet on using some random scrub tires. So these are a step up for me, even though they're not brand new, let's say. I mean, they've never been used, but they're not recent manufacturer years. So we've got a 110 front and we've got the 190 rear, and we're just going to make these work. So I'm not actually going to get these mounted until I look at the forecasts for the event that we're going to do, because if it's looking like a mixed conditions, then I'll keep the Continental street tires on the bike. If it's looking seriously wet, we'll get these mounted onto the road wheels, and in the meantime, maybe this weekend, I'll get these mounted onto my spare wheels, which have currently got the old slicks on. So we'll have options going into the event. So that's good. So we're going to get to use the tyre machine again and get those swapped and balanced, and we're going to have a play with this chain. So with the assistance of our Constands even wheel changer, we've got the slicks mounted up on both wheels now. Considering I haven't done it in a long time, it all came back to me, and it was relatively easy. It didn't even have to heat these up to get them on. They're pretty fresh and stretchy, so that was a good result. So yeah, I've got the slicks on. I'm going to do my traditional measuring again. So when I ran these slicks for the first time, I measured the outer diameter just to see how it would change with the geometry of the bike. These slicks are generally a taller middle part of the tire, so the diameter is larger than standard tires. These should be pretty close, so let's do a little comparison visually and we'll see. So hopefully you can kind of see, I know the background is not ideal for you to look at it, but the height, the diameter in the middle is pretty much identical, and the inner diameter, this part, like where the V of my valley is also identical. So these two tires are very much the same thing, which is good, because I really enjoyed this steeper profile on this tire, and that's what I wanted on this new slick too, so that's really good. And then tomorrow's job will be to use the trusty balancer to balance up these new tires and wheels. So I've set the pressures in both wheels at the moment to around about 48-50 psi. So again, tomorrow I'll remeasure that and check that we're not losing air, which did happen to me once last time. Usually that means breaking the bead and then reseating it once more. So whilst we have 5 minutes at the end of the day, I'll show you something else that I've been working on. So this is something that I made a long time ago, a few years ago. It's got a GPS receiver on the top, and it's got a little Arduino board inside of it. Right now I'm running like a debug mode where I simulate GPS positioning, and this green line is gonna make a diamond shape which represents a circuit for me. Now the aim of this is to show me the amount of time that it takes to complete that circuit, i.e. a lap timer, and then the bottom value is going to be my delta versus the best lap time. So I know this works as a lap timer with the GPS receiver, so it's a 10 Hertz receiver, and so it's pretty accurate. I used to run it in the UK, and it was close enough to get me times, to the 0.05 of a second compared to the transponder on the bike. So I know that part works, but I never had this delta representation, which I am still working on right now, so it's not fully completed. But yeah, I thought this was a bit fun for you to see. And it used to, and it will do, attempt to show you a theoretical lean angle based on your GPS speed and velocity around a corner. Now that only really works on a flat circuit, which Black Hawk Farms is a pretty flat circuit. So there you go, we just completed one lap of 1:22, and that will go into a memory bank and each time we get through a split point, it will compare the delta to the best time previously known. So anyway, and then if I tap a button at the end of the session, I can get a layout of the best time, all the lap times up to 10 laps, and the best one will get shown at the bottom. So yeah, still working on it. This is my solution because I can't afford an AIM Solo 2 at $500, so I'm trying to make my own, and we're nearly there with it. Just needs a little bit more tinkering and then we'll have it working. So you might see this in the footage on the bike eventually if I can get it all figured out. Then that's what this is. So yeah, fun stuff. So yeah, we got the old chain off, and as you can see, the friction difference between these links and the non-O-ring one is quite dramatic. Well, I'm not trying to be dramatic, but it's more, right? And that's what we try and eradicate when we're running the sealless chain. So yeah, we'll get the new one on. Got to clean up the sprockets, get all the gunk off, and then install the new one and use the chain tool to drive off a few links, because it's like 120 links long. We need only 108, so we'll take the last few bits off and get it all installed. So after giving a good clean up to the sprockets and the chain guides on top and bottom of the swing arm, we've got the chain in place, and then I'm just checking we've got the rough amount of slack, and that shows me that we need to pop out this rivet pin here, and then the new master link will link between those two holes and we'll get the job done. So I will go ahead. So last time I was installing chains, this thing was adequate to just push the pin out, and we don't need to grind anything or anything like that. So I'm going to set this up again and just push that pin out, and then we'll be almost done. Yeah, so good success again with the tool. That just pushed out with, you know, a reasonable bit of effort, but we got it out absolutely nicely, no drama. So the good thing, and I will lubricate this inner surface before I finalize this, but these links on these non-sealed units, they just push together and come apart with your fingers. The other one with the sealed units, they're just a bit of a pain in the butt to reuse, to split the chain again when you want to take it off for cleaning or anything. So this method and this style of chain just makes that whole thing nice and easy too. So yeah. So I always read the instructions every single time I do one of these chains, just to remind myself which way the drive direction and the clip should be. So if the drive direction was that way, the open end of the clip would be that way, but our drive direction is that way, so the open clip should face that way. Right, so I just need to lubricate the whole chain now, and we'll be finished with this job. And obviously, don't forget to check your chain tension as well, as the last step on your bike. Mine's just about there, so I'm gonna leave it at that and then check it after the first track event. You know, after the first session, we'll double check the tension, but that seems pretty good for where I want it to be right now. So yeah, that's a good result, a nice and easy swap over, and let's see if this makes any difference at all. If we do the little spin test, we'll see how much friction we have in the chain. That seems pretty good. If you can do that on your bike with a sealed chain, I'd be pretty impressed, because that feels quite free in the chain now. Anyway, right, I'll catch you up in a second. Okay, so the last couple of jobs then was to balance up these tyres this weekend, and then we're pretty close to being all set for our event in a couple of weeks. So interestingly, this wheel I took the weights off, as you can see. So there was 5 weights on the wheel. So we're going to hope that we can reduce that and get away with less weights this time around. So we're going to see. And interestingly, the valve is at the top. So the heavy part of the tyre or wheel at this point is down here at the bottom opposite that. So we're going to have to add some weights up on the top side near the valve area. So we're just going to figure out how many that needs. And as you can see, if I put this kind of halfway and let go, it immediately rocks down to the bottom again. And if I do it the other way, it rocks down to the bottom that way. So we've got a heavy point down here which we need to balance out. So let's go ahead. We can use some of the old weights as a bit of a guide in the first instance. So let's put 2 of those up here near the interestingly, this area was where I had the weights last time, so it's pretty close probably to where it was last time. So let's just put a couple of weights there, and we'll do that again. So if we put the valve over that side, it still wants to pull down to the bottom, and if we put the valve this side, it wants to go up that way too. So we need more weights. Let's add, in fact, let's make them closer to the valve. Sorry about this camera work here, but that's what you're gonna get, I'm afraid. Alright, let's put another weight on the other side. About there. Alright. I'm not going to use these weights, obviously. I'll take them off and put fresh ones on. Okay, so it's still, we're getting closer. We're probably going to end up with the same amount of weights on here, which is just the way it is. Alright, so when I've got it balanced, oh no, there we go, I've got these apart now. So let's put these 2 on as well. Alright, let's put the valve over there. Okay, we're getting there now. That's 5 weights on. Perfect. That is pretty much as good as I'll ever get it on this balancer. That is absolutely perfectly balanced. So we need 5 weights in that general area, and we'll get these taped up, and that'll be the job done for this wheel. So we've got the weights taped up, we've got the metal valve caps which are required for racing, and we've checked the pressures. It was holding pressure nicely, so I've set those to about 33 psi for now. It's lovely and balanced, so I'm a happy boy. I like to take these stickers off before I roll out. I don't know why. That's just the way I am. I don't like leaving the stickers on before I roll out a pit lane, so I generally take these off. Alright, so we've got the rear wheel to do, so I'll catch you up when we've done that. So the rear tyre was fairly easy, just took 2 of the weights off that weren't needed, so we've got 1 weight left on, so that's a nice balanced wheel, which I am happy with. So perfect. So apart from a few minor jobs, we're pretty much ready for getting back out on track. So I'm going to leave the video here. Obviously I'll follow up next week if I do anything different. I am thinking about trying to find somebody else's leftover seat, stripping the foam off and making my own lower seat so that I sit more in the bike. That's something I'm thinking about, because we've got quite a lot of foam there, and I think I'd like to lower the seat a bit to get my body more into the bike a little bit. We'll think about that in the future. But yeah, I'm going to leave the video here. A few bits left to do eventually, like take the mirrors off everything, you know, that we usually do to go back on track from being on the street. So I'm going to leave the video here. I know it's been a little bit of a long one, but I'm going to add in some bonus footage for those of you that have been interested in the power system we installed in the truck. You can watch that and see how we got on with trying to power tire warmers from a battery in the truck. Stay tuned to find out. Alright guys, if this is where you're tailing off, then good night, goodbye, like and subscribe, and if you're here for the bonus footage, you're a legend. Bye for now. So here's a bit of bonus footage for you all. I've got some low pressures on my work vehicle, so I thought, as a very borderline test, I thought I would see if the truck power system can run this compressor. Now the compressor pulls around 10 amps at 110 volts, so that's around about 1100 watts. The inverter in the truck runs 1000 watts. So I thought, what better way to do a bit of a test than to try this out. So the inverter's powered on. I have a feeling this inverter is just gonna immediately trip out. So I'm very scared right now. Let's see what happens if, let me get the tablet sort of set up so I can read off the power immediately. There we go. All right, well, let's make sure the compressor's closed up, not venting off. All right, 3, 2, 1. Well, it does it. That's pretty remarkable. The amps on the battery was pulling 86 amps, which is close to the discharge limit. So you can only pull, I think you're supposed to discharge at around about the maximum of 1C, which is about 100 amps. But the inverter was pulling 1000 watts. We were pulling around 85 amps. See if you can see this when I do that again. Okay, so now it's cut out and somebody's calling me. So I'll leave that test right there. Okay, I'm back. I did look at the listing for the battery, and it says we can discharge at a 1C, which means, for this case of battery, 100 amps. So we were hitting 86. So the battery's okay. The inverter did just cut out when I tried like a second power on. And the inverter does seem a little bit finicky when we're doing like switching on, switching off. So once it's got started and running past that surge, it seems okay. So I'm gonna go again and we're gonna see if this can hit its target pressure or not. I'm scared again. Here we go. Yeah, see, the inverter just cut out immediately. I'm gonna try once more. I know you can't see very well. Yeah, the inverter is really not happy with me, so I'm going to call that a test and say that the inverter is the issue here. It was only a cheap one from Menards, so no great shock there. All right, well, just in case you're interested, there you go. We've hit the limit of what we can do running a compressor. Okay, so that last test where we tried to run the compressor got me thinking. And one of the things that we might realistically want to do, probably not the compressor on the battery, but there may be an occasion where you'd want to run some tire warmers. Let's say if the generator that you had just stopped working halfway through the day, or you got one last race to do but the generator's dead for some reason. It would be nice to know if our battery setup in the truck can run tire warmers or not. So we're going to do a little test. Right now everything's on standby. We've got the inverter here ready to power up, so we're going to power that up. So we've got our extension cable connected. So we're going to hook up the front tire warmer, which might be the smaller of the two tire warmer power. So here we go. Alright, so we got nothing. Oh, the tire warmer is not doing anything. Bear with me. Okay, so now we have got the front warmer going. There's something wrong with that adapter. So we're pulling 400 watts, 31 amps right now. And remember, the inverter is capable of doing 1000 watts. So technically, if we double up and put the rear one in, we'll see if we can get underneath that 1000 watts and see how long it lasts for. Now remember, we've got half a battery-ish, let's say 60% of the battery. So we might be able to run tire warmers on this setup for like an hour. So I'm going to plug in the rear one and then we'll see. 2 tire warmers now connected. We're pulling 1000 watts, 80 amps, which is a high load obviously. The inverter's got the fan running. So it says 800 watts on the inverter. This says 900-ish. And we could probably run this for about an hour with the remaining charge in the battery. So if the battery was fully charged, then yeah, maybe we could get probably like an hour and a half, maybe more, of running the tire warmers if we really needed to. Interesting. I don't want to get these tires too hot, it's just a test. But yeah, interesting result. So yeah, we've got the rear one on, look, just to prove it. So technically possible, guys. So I thought that was a fun test. I am thinking to get rid of this inverter and try a different one. This was kind of a cheap modified sine wave rather than a pure sine wave. You can feel the cables are getting a little bit warm. Sorry if you can't see, I've got you on my chest magnet thing here. Alright, well there you go. Fun test. It does work.